had to do the era specific. I mean, this would have worked too. Arsenio, either one.
I'm on a kick today, dude. I saw that. I sent you that clip of there was a show back in my day that is all too relevant today, called In Living Color, and I sent Touré a clip from a skit they did called The Wrath of Farrakhan. So for Star Trek fans, a spoof off the Star Trek Wrath of Khan, and how Farrakhan can walk into the USS Enterprise.
Captain's log, Stardate 14. We're being pulled towards a hostile planet. I'm hoping that Scotty will be able to activate the backup control system. God, I feel so vulnerable.
Captain, I'm picking up some strange signals. Something about intergalactic oppressors, sir.
Captain, intruders are approaching the bridge, sir.
Who are you?
I am the Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Spock, who is he?
A former Calypso singer, Captain, who later became leader of a 20th century African-American religious sect known as the Nation of Islam.
You like to buy some incense?
Bean pie, my brother?
No, thank you.
What do you want?
I've come to warn your crew.
Warn your crew.
Of their enslavement. Aboard this vessel.
That's poppycock. These people are perfectly free to do anything they like.
Destroy the racial harmony and the socialist harmony with
Stop, my Asian brother. That's probably my favorite line. Let me ask you one question. Who does the laundry on board?
Who does the laundry on board? When he told Uhuru, he said, I've been staring at the back of that nappy
wig for 30 years, sir. 20, I guess is what it was then. Yeah. Well, and Damon Wayans just did a phenomenal Louis Farrakhan, and it became sort of the blueprint for my Louis Farrakhan subsequently, which I've incorporated into many class lectures over the last 20 years. At this point, the kids don't know who the hell I'm talking about. Well, when I started, it was good stuff.
This comment on the screen is pretty much my feeling. To be honest, I don't really get the main point of Do the Right Thing either, despite being from Bed-Stuy and having gone to high school with Italians.
No, I mean, at the time, I was still a teenager, and my walk away, I saw a film with my dad, actually, and we both were like, well, what the fuck's the right thing? Right? It was not remotely clear what it was, and there's more to say than that, but the ambiguity was allegedly its strength. I don't get it. Yeah.
So I sent, Touré and I haven't watched this movie in a while. And he's like, can you send me a refresher?
I did a quick watch.
I was like, I'll do you.
I had
better.
just enough time to watch it before we met. So I did a very quick watch. More listening than watching, though.
I was like, brother, I'll do you one better. I will send you a Siskel and Ebert recap. The way critics, especially white, I don't know any black critics of note during the late 80s, but the way critics were fawning all over Spike Lee from the moment he hit the ground running with She's Gotta Have It. Mm-hmm. Even the Nike commercials that he was doing for was he doing it for Jordans or it was Jordans, people just loved him. And Tucson had said something. We were off air, we were having a conversation about that Netflix doc, because a lot of these more liberal documentaries about blaxploitation kind of centers everything on just racism. Like blaxploitation begins and ends because of racism, and then there's Spike Lee. But Spike Lee really did not like the blaxploitation era. He's never really done odes to it like a person like Tarantino does. And he kind of doesn't just put an end to that era. He makes sure that the people in that era don't even work in his movies. Like he doesn't reach out to those cats at all. You know, they are not part of his universe. And Toussaint said, I was like, you know, Spike Lee is the end of the super nigga. And Toussaint goes, Mars Blackman killed the super nigga.
I was gonna say, and yeah, no, that makes sense. Toussaint is on it again, as always. But Spike, you know, got a lot of criticism back, and eventually received some criticism for the slant of his films or the slice of Black life that he portrayed. And that's one of the things that was kind of interesting about the Siskel Ebert clip, because I will tell you, I just did a quick view of this again. I've seen the movie many times, but I think this afternoon for the first time in about 15 years. And the class dimensions of the film were largely lost on me every single time, not because they were deep, but it's because everything's superficial anyway. Like all of the characters, it's like 1,000 miles wide and half an inch deep. Basically, there's too many characters for them to get into with any depth. And the irony of it is the only character that has any depth really is Danny Aiello's character, which is another thing that I walked away kind of perplexed by, especially given the conclusion of the film and the point, at least what point there is to highlight the problem of racial tensions in New York, of course, in that era, but also the culmination of those racial tensions into the tragic murder of Radio Raheem. You'd think there would have been more depth to Radio Raheem than a mute character playing a boombox at a gazillion decibels, right? And yet not. It's wild. You know, I just have to pick on Roger Ebert. I came to prefer Siskel. And what did it for me, because I used to watch that show all the time, but what did it for me was Roger Ebert's take on Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking a juice in the hood. Siskel loved it because he was like, you know, this is basically a Mel Brooks movie. Ebert was upset about it because he thought that the film did a disservice to a bunch of serious films. Having seen Boys in the Hood and South Central and all the rest at some point, it's like, nah, it didn't do a disservice to them, right? I mean, all those films are superficial and really pander to the underclass tropes of the day, allegedly with a sympathetic ear or window onto it, but not really. So, you know, Roger Ebert, his take on Black films kind of bugged me.
His take on Black films felt like he was afraid to say something wrong.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
definitely what was going on.
Spike Lee. We're doing a half-hour retrospective on Spike Lee, even though he's only done 3 films. And I don't know. I watched Do the Right Thing when it came out because you had to go see it. Because Spike Lee was like this thing that we had to be really stoked about. And everyone was saying Do the Right Thing was the most incredible movie of all time. This is still the era of black medallions and
African medallions, to be clear.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, the 33-year-olds wouldn't understand. Right. But
not at all.
You gotta specify as the African medallion.
Not at all. Black medallions, no gold. Yeah. And I remember watching it, and much like you and your father, I was trying to figure out what the point was too, because I saw it. I was like, why is that guy so mad about the pizza joint not having black people? Because you know, jokingly, you know, again, Toussaint and I were on air a few weeks ago. We were talking about that scene, and she goes, it's like she pretends like she's at a Chinese restaurant. She goes, "Why? Exactly. What's up with the dragons on the wall?" Don't ever disrespect me with dragons on the wall. And I was like, that whole character, the scene where the white guy is in the Celtics jersey, which, you know, this is a time when there were legitimate racial tensions between the Celtics and the Lakers in the street. You know, I won't speak for what was happening on the court, but in the street, if you were a Celtics fan, That was some white shit.
For real.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in part from the New York metro area, and I was always taken aback by Boston fans. To this day, I have what's probably an anachronistic disdain for all sports teams. Boston,
Mhm.
Duke too, but that's not anachronistic. That just is. That's real. But anyway, so yeah, I feel that 100%. But what a cliche.
Yeah, like some white guy in Bed-Stuy is just gonna be walking around with a
Who's from Brooklyn too,
yeah,
right? I mean, he's
with a
from
Boston
Brooklyn.
Celtics
So
jersey.
that just tells you that his loyalty, his attachment to the Celtics is that they just play basic basketball at basic level. They pass 5 times before anyone shoots. It's all about no razzle dazzle, no razzle, fundamentals.
That was the most made up bullshit I've ever seen in the history of made up bullshit.
Mhm.
Like like there's it's almost like what there's no old white New York Knicks fans. Like it was only niggas at Madison Square Garden. You're gonna tell me like really? Like I refuse to believe that they're trying to paint this picture that this is really how polarizing basketball has gotten, that some 45-year-old John Voight looking dude is just gonna walk around Bed-Stuy with just a Celtics jersey.
Well,
It's like walking around certain parts of the bay in a Dodgers jersey. It's just at that time it was not a good look for you.
I mean, I think you touched upon this already as implicit as something you said, but did it strike you that there actually is not much story to the film? I mean, like if you were to describe the film to someone and the major points, and you basically did already,
Mhm.
that there's a white pizza parlor and a Italian American pizza parlor, duh, I would hope,
Mhm.
in Bed-Stuy. There's a controversy centered on the lack of photographs of black figures in the Italian American pizza parlor, which features, go figure, a bunch of Italian American icons. That sets off conflict between Giancarlo Esposito, who is a really great actor.
Great
I mean, I
actor.
was reminded
Great
of
actor.
that and watching him as Bugging Out. And I don't think I appreciated his skill set at that time, but I really do now. But anyway, so Bugging Out and Radio Raheem flip the fuck out over this thing. Antics ensue, and ultimately Radio Raheem is murdered by the police officers, right? By 2
Mhm.
police officers in a chokehold. And Spike Lee throws a trash can through the glass window
Mhm.
of Do the Right Thing, and that's it, right? I mean, that's what happens in the film. There's not a lot of meat to the story, and that's owed, I guess, to the fact that Spike Lee is trying to offer a lens onto a slice of life in a
Mhm.
day in Brooklyn. But what that means practically is you just can't get into anything, right? I mean, there's no opportunity because of the number of characters in the film. There's no opportunity to explore the humanity of anybody. And they end up just being a checklist of stereotypes to the point decades later, uh, the awful film Dear White People, actually the one decent thing of the film, but it ends up being ironic, is that it criticizes in a Spike Lee breakout moment, on the spectrum of Wake Up, or in the case of Do the Right Thing, where there's a break where a bunch of the characters just shoot off racist stereotypes about some group or another, like a Dave Chappelle skit from the mid 1990s, a great Dave Chappelle skit. But anyway, Dear White People spoofs or references the fact that Spike Lee provides caricatures of groups. And then, of course, Dear White People does the same thing, right? But Spike Lee is trying to provide a slice of life, or a day anyway, in a hot day in the summer of 1989, I guess, in Bed-Stuy. And as a result, you just can't get, none of the characters have any meat.